What's up, and welcome to a Mental Health Monday Live. We're sponsored by Hardhead Helps, Mental Health Life Coaching, taking your first step to talk therapy. Been a while since I've done one of these, so thanks for joining us. I got a guest this week. Got another guest. I like to bring people on as much as I can. Let's talk to Kody Green today. I didn't meet Kody yet because I've just met you virtually now, but I know of Kody Green from Instagram and TikTok, and you are probably one of the only, if not the only, people that I know of that are very open about their schizophrenia diagnosis. So, thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for being so open and honest about your story and everything. I'd love to talk to you about everything today. So, and you're in Wisconsin too, by the way. You're a Wisconsin guy.
Yeah, I am. I live near La Crosse, so other side of the state. But
All right, cool. Now, you also have an organization that's called One Opportunity Hiring. That's kind of you giving people a second chance because you've had your own journey. You've been some time behind bars. You struggle with addiction. You've gone through recovery. So, kind of give like the too long didn't read version of kind of how you got to where you are today.
yeah, so as you mentioned, I have diagnosed schizophrenia. I started having symptoms when I was about 19 years old. That led to my addiction. That led to my incarceration. And so once I got to a point where I was medicated and I was getting treatment, I wanted to start telling my story. And once I was able to start telling my story and growing a following, I decided I wanted to do as much as I can as an advocate and motivational speaker. So I did start, like you mentioned, my nonprofit, which is called One Opportunity Hiring, where we help people with criminal records in the La Crosse area find jobs. And then when it comes to my advocacy and motivational speaking, I've been doing a lot more at colleges and high schools, workplaces about mental health in the workplace or mental health in general. So
Yeah. So, was it your schizophrenia that kind of led to the addiction? Did you start using to cope with the schizophrenia? Is that what happened? You think?
yeah, so statistically, people with schizophrenia have some of the highest addiction rates. And it's not that I was using the drugs to cope. It was actually, in my personal experience, I was using the drugs as a reason to like validate what I was seeing and hearing.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm not struggling with hallucinations. I'm just on drugs. And not that that makes sense, but looking back, it was all I could think that would, help me cope or help me understand what was going on without having to actually deal with it.
What exactly is schizophrenia to the person that isn't really familiar with it? Because I think we've heard about it. There's misnomers about it. There's myths about it. There was a movie about it back in like the 2000s, Me, Myself, and Irene with Jim Carrey, and people think, you've just got like 7 personalities. Is that what schizophrenia is? I mean, what are some of the myths and what exactly is it?
Yeah, so schizophrenia is a disorder in which it causes hallucinations, delusions, and paranoia. A lot of people get it mixed up with multiple personality disorder, which is now dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
And the difference between the two is that someone with schizophrenia is going to experience people around them, voices around them, whereas someone with DID has different personalities within them. So there is that constant confusion between the two. Schizophrenia is, in a best word to describe it, a hallucination disorder. It primarily causes hallucinations, delusions, and paranoia. I primarily deal with now just visual and auditory hallucinations. I did used to deal with delusions and paranoia before I was medicated.
So now you're on, that was going to be my next question. How do you manage this? How do you treat it? I mean, medication, therapy, talk therapy, how does that work?
Yeah, I've been on medication for over 5 years now, and medication is the reason that I am able to function day to day. Obviously, everyone's going to have different experiences with different medication, and it wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a lot of trial and error, which medication worked well for me, which medication gave me the least amount of symptoms. So I take almost, I think, 5 daily medications, and then I have a medication for emergencies. And then I go to treatment, and I have a psychiatry appointment every other week. So
Okay.
just as much as I can do to keep up with it.
Now, I think you found some of your advocacy that started with TikTok, and you garnered over a million followers you have now. How did that get started? When did you say, all right, I'm going to go on TikTok and start talking about this? Did you
No,
find there was a niche for it? How did that happen?
it was not by design at all. I refused to join TikTok. Like the first year that it was out, my wife kept sending me videos. I'm like, ugh, I do not want to go on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then she started sending me some I liked, so I jumped on there. And after a while, I was like, I kind of want to make some videos. And I didn't start with mental health videos. I just did goofy trend videos.
Yeah.
And then after a couple weeks of doing that, I was like, I kind of want to tell my story because it's a unique story. I didn't even expect to get a lot of followers. It was more of going to be like a personal blog for me.
Sure.
And then I did my first schizophrenic story time, which is a segment where I talk about an experience I've had, dealing with schizophrenia. This particular schizophrenic story time was about a time when I was in college and I was talking to someone at a table and the librarian came to kick me out. And I was confused why she wasn't trying to kick the other guy out. And it turned out he was a hallucination. He wasn't really there. And so that story blew up overnight. And I went from, I think, 300 followers to like 10,000. And then from there, it was just progressive storytelling and answering questions that led, like you said, to over 1 million followers now.
Yeah. How do you, and I've seen you've done some videos where you have a camera kind of rolling on yourself and you're talking to something, and that's kind of a raw and open moment that you have. And you don't hide it at all, which I love. You're very honest about it. Is that something that happens regularly where you kind of, do you have to run a tape on yourself to manage when that happens, just to know what triggers it?
Yeah, so there's two different ways that I've found really help me identify whether or not the person I'm seeing is a hallucination or not. I have a webcam in my office at all times. I actually have two of them, one by my computer, one in the corner of my room, that is connected directly to my phone. So if I'm at home, I will actually just pull up my webcam. Something about the brain doesn't allow you to hallucinate a person in front of you and on your cell phone. So
Okay.
I've been using the webcam as one way of doing that. And then the other way, if I'm not in my office, I actually just had a video like last week go viral. It's at like 1.5 million views right now, where I was recording at my break room at work because I thought that someone was in the break room with me. And all the video is me showing myself and then showing directly in front of me, just because I was trying to verify whether or not someone was there or not. And they weren't. And so it's just kind of my way of identifying whether or not I'm having hallucinations.
Okay. So you look at the phone, you can say, okay, this is just a hallucination. Take some deep breaths, calm yourself, and kind of, how do you come back to normal? To like, what's your baseline?
Honestly, even if I identify that I'm having a hallucination, that doesn't mean they just go away. Usually I have emergency medication I take that kind of helps settle me down. The more stressed I am, the more anxious I am, the worse my hallucinations are. So it's more just about grounding techniques. And I actually will go on live sometimes on TikTok, which is like you said, it's a super raw thing for me because I'm going on in my most vulnerable moments, and you really get to see how some people are so supportive. But then this last live I did, we ended up having almost 6 grand people in my life, 6,000 people in my life. And
Wow.
a majority of them were very nice, but there's always, you can see how many people don't understand schizophrenia. They would come in and be like, oh, I see him too. Or, oh, look out, he's behind you, actually trying to trigger my symptoms.
Right.
So it's one of those things where, like, coping, there's good and bad ways to do it. And I've just been kind of working with everything I can the past couple of years to figure out what works best for me.
Yeah. Do you have other groups of people with schizophrenia that you can talk to so you can kind of troubleshoot one another and support one another?
I have other advocates that I'm really close friends with. Michelle Hammer, she used to be on A Bipolar, a Schizophrenic in a podcast. She is an amazing advocate. Cecilia McGowan, she is the founder of Students with Psychosis. Those two are kind of my go-to advocates that I talk to when I have questions and when I'm like wanting to do collaborations about schizophrenia. I did a collaboration with both of them for National Schizophrenia Day. I'll probably do it again next year because it's just our way of being able to, remind people that our community is here and that we are actively trying to change the outlook and stigma around schizophrenia.
Yeah. One thing I want to kind of switch gears to your nonprofit that you run, because I think it's admirable when somebody starts something with the passion that kind of affected their life and you want to help other people. Was your one opportunity hiring, was that because you were having trouble getting work because of your incarceration, or was it your schizophrenia, or was it a combination of both? Where did the passion for that start?
Uh, the it's kind of weird because I did do it initially because I was, someone who had been in jail. I had been incarcerated and I got out. And initially, it was kind of tough to find a job. I'm very fortunate. As you can tell, I'm outgoing. I actually do fairly well in job interviews. I'm very professional. I had a lot of friends, though. They would get out. And these were people that I knew the entire time I was incarcerated. They would get out. They wouldn't be able to find jobs and they'd end up right back in. And as someone who at the time was going to school for human resource, I was like, I think I can help. I think I can teach people to, how to present themselves for interviews, how to dress correctly, how to build their resumes. And so it was more just me wanting to use the knowledge and charisma I had to kind of help other people be able to get back to work, because all the studies have shown that if someone gets out of jail or prison and they can find a job, the chance of recidivism, that's such a tough word.
That is. Can you define that word? Use it in a sentence.
Yeah, right. The chance of returning to jail or prison is so less likely. So it's really, really important to get people back to work. And I thought I could help do that in my local community. I would love to see it grow at some point. But once COVID hit, we had to kind of take a step back. We're mostly doing online resources now, just helping build resumes. We do have free suits and stuff that we give out to people that have been donated to us. So I'm looking to get back into doing that a little more full time, but with COVID and everything that went on, we did have to take some step back.
I see that. You talk a lot about second chances on your website, kodygreen.com as well. What was your second chance that was given to you?
The second chance I had was after I got out of jail, and I started getting treatment. I was given a job and it sounds so weird, but it was cheese making. And this was the point where I couldn't find a job. I really was struggling. And I got this one job and it gave me the confidence to work really hard to prove, despite my mental illness and despite my past, that I could be a good worker. And so this one job allowed me to go into another job, which allowed me to go back to school, which gave me the opportunity to do all of this. So it was really just the HR lady at the first job I went to. She asked me, she's like, what's this about your criminal record? She's like, is there anything else we need to know about? And I was super honest and upfront about my mental health and about like why my.
Oh, no. He locked up. Or maybe I locked up. I'm not sure which one. Are you there still? Technology sucks. There he goes. You locked up for a second there.
No, that's all right. But it was really that first job that kind of gave me that second chance to get back into the workforce and get started.
Okay. So what do you do now for work?
So right now, I pretty much am doing motivational speaking and, social media almost full time. I do have another job where I work part time, and that's just more to help pay the mortgage. My goal right now is to be doing motivational speaking and social media full time.
All right. What's one of the messages you like people to take away when you do these motivational speaking events?
So there's a quote that I love. It's, if you go onto my Facebook or any of my pages, you'll find this quote everywhere. The quote is, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So despite all the issues I've had in the past, I want people to look at my story and I want them to be able to rationalize that no matter what they're going through, they have just as much chance of succeeding at whatever their goals are. Never did I think I would be doing, motivational speaking at colleges, at the college I went to, or like motivational speaking at the jail where I was incarcerated. But it's like having that opportunity to do that was solely because I believed in myself and I made the best of what was going on.
That's awesome. And where can people find you? How can people get involved with your mission if they wanted to?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, kodygreen.com is a great way to find basic information for all of my websites. Otherwise, TikTok has links to every single one of my social media platforms, including my website. And that's really where I keep most of my information. So Schizophrenic Hippie on TikTok is probably the best place.
Where'd the name come from, by the way, as well?
The name is a super funny story. As I had mentioned, it took me a couple of weeks to start talking about schizophrenia on my page. My first TikTok username, I think, was can't grow a beard guy. Um, because I have a very patchy beard. It's filled
Me
in
too.
over the time. It's filled
Me-
in, but
Mine looks like a lawn in distress if I try to grow a beard. It's just awful. So I just shave
exactly.
it all the time.
Well, and so that was my first username. And then I started sharing these stories about my schizophrenia. And someone actually made a post. They were like, they said, "You're just a worthless schizophrenic hippie." And I was like, I kind of like that. And so I took this insulting comment and made it my username. And it's kind of stuck with me. I tried to change my username a while back to be a little more professional. I changed it to my name, but the people wanted it back. So it is back to schizophrenic hippie.
It stands out, and I love that you've taken everything with so many things that have happened to you in your life. You really do embrace that 90-10 rule that you were just talking about.
Yeah,
That's how you live your life, and I think that's how a lot of people should live their lives. Instead of complaining, "This happened to me. I can't do this because of this." You think, "How can I do this because of this?"
absolutely. The best thing I've found is like, despite whatever's going on in my life, as long as you have, a decent support system, you have good people around you, anything is really possible.
What do you do for your self-care? Because you're obviously a busy guy. You're working. You got a million followers on TikTok now. You got a nonprofit you're working on. What do you do for you to kinda keep you chill, keep you
The best things I can do is one, I take a step back. I'm not afraid anymore to take time away from social media. And I think that's different than a lot of, I hate using this word, influencers. I don't like calling myself an influencer, but
you are.
it
It's okay, though.
it's one of those things where like I had to realize once I hit like 100,000 followers, I'm like, yes, this is important, but I need to be able to step away if I'm having a really difficult time. Other than that, just spending time, with my wife, my dogs, and video games. Video games are my all-time relaxation. I actually quit streaming on Twitch because it took the fun away from it. It became another job. So I
Yeah.
quit streaming on Twitch just so I could enjoy video games again.
That's awesome. Well, Kody Green, Schizophrenic Hippie, I really appreciate you taking the time. You can find him on Instagram and TikTok, Schizophrenic Hippie. It's spelled right there on the bottom of the screen for you because schizophrenia, I had to make sure that I spelled it correctly so many times.
That was the main reason I changed the username because it is a difficult one to spell. I have it and I still have trouble spelling it. So
Nice. Kody, you have an inspirational story. We had a couple of people that commented that as well. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll talk to you again hopefully when you get to 2 million followers and hopefully come to one of your motivational speaking events at some point. We're both in Wisconsin, so we should probably find a way to meet up at some point.
it's inevitable. I'll end up seeing you at one of them.
Nice. Sounds good, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Kody Green, Schizophrenic Hippie. Thank you, sir.